Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning into another episode here at the Portcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us today. Do you mind introducing yourself and your organization?
Hi, my name is Charles Morgan, and I'm the president of SAWUBONA, which is a new organization formed in 2020 here in Bridgeport.
Okay. And it's Dr. Charles Morgan.
Yes, I'm a psychiatrist by training.
Okay. So I thought it probably would be best if we talk about Charles Morgan first and then work our way up to Dr. Charles Morgan and see how you got to that point. So can you just tell us about your upbringing, where you're from and where you grew up?
Sure. So I'm the oldest of 7 children, born to my parents, and grew up in a small district called Woodstock in Jamaica, in the parish of Manchester. It's a real rural. And I did all my elementary, high school education there. And after working a couple of years, moved to New York to do college. And I went to City College of New York. And I tell people this because that's an important part of our history, in that when I came to New York, you could have 4 years of education at a top college, public university, for free, no tuition. So I paid less than $90 per semester for what was called activities fee. My initial plan when I came to New York was to become a science teacher. And I actually majored in biochemistry. But after seeing some of the things that kids did on the subways in New York, I grew up in a society where all students wear uniforms. You were very, very quiet. When teachers walked in the classroom, you stood up. And I saw kids jumping over turnstiles in the subways in New York. I'm like, I'm not cut out for this. So I said I would move on to do college, teach at the college level, but literally got sidetracked by getting a research project done and decided I'd go into medicine. And back then, there were actually more departments in colleges and universities that offered black studies. I know it's African American studies now, but they were much more prominent in the 70s. And I was allowed to take a course over the summer where you worked, volunteered at an institution, and I chose a hospital, did some volunteer work, write a paper on one part of the experience, but also kept a journal. And that's really what got me into medicine, was working in a hospital and seeing that I could make a difference in people's lives.
And you said that these courses for black studies were more prominent back in the 70s. Do you think that had anything to do with the civil rights movement?
Oh, clearly it was a result of the civil rights movement. There were lots of opportunities for people of color to get education then. And there was a much more active political environment. We seem to be getting back to political activism now, but I remember, again, growing up in this small village and coming into New York and seeing people protesting about everything, and that was on college campuses. It was a very vibrant time. So in my case, not only did I get a free education, but as a result of some of the research I did, I won what was called the Jonas Salk Scholarship. Salk was the person who developed the polio vaccine. And there was a scholarship throughout the City University of New York. I think there might have been 8 offered. I'm not so sure. I was one of the recipients of that scholarship. And so I ended up getting money to pay towards medical school. So I had a free education plus.
Okay. So what was it that attracted you to psychology, and what branch of psychology do you practice?
So I'm a psychiatrist. So I actually went to medical school. I went to Cornell. And what impressed me the most was that the psychiatrists were the best teachers there. The first course I took with a psychiatrist was a general course for first-year students, and it was called Interviewing the Medical Patient. And I realized that getting people's stories is so much more important than just having lab tests. And that's really what turned me onto psychiatry. It was really getting to know who the person was, so that you're not just a diagnosis or a set of symptoms. And I think that's been true for most of psychiatry, even though we've turned to a lot of medication management over the years because of managed care. I think the best psychiatrists are the ones who spend time talking to their patients, getting to know who they are, what they bring into the office is not just symptoms, but their culture, their history. So that's the background that I bring to psychiatry.
Okay. And what was it that you seen or that you saw here in the city that it needed your service?
What I saw was that for our youth, and especially minority youth, there weren't a lot of services. By the time minority youth got to us in psychiatry, they already had very serious problems. Some of them had actually gotten into legal troubles. Or if they came from the schools, they were seen as behavioral problems, and there wasn't a lot of understanding that there were psychiatric issues going on. So Bridgeport Hospital has a wonderful program called the REACH program that does good work with patients. They have intensive outpatient program, look at dual diagnosis, very culturally appropriate. But those programs last 6 weeks or so. And what we found is that a number of the kids who come to those programs have backgrounds of trauma. They've gone through divorces, family members with substance abuse, family members who've been imprisoned. Some of them have been abused. And there's a list of problems or traumatic issues that they have faced coming in. And so my thought was that if we're really going to make a difference, we really need to get to kids or young people before they end up in our offices or in emergency rooms. So that's really what led to SAWUBONA. As I was thinking about retirement and giving back, I started thinking about what's the best way to do that. And luckily, I have a number of good friends in the mental health, education, business, who all want to focus on helping young people build resiliency. And that's really what SAWUBONA is about.
Okay. And so let's talk about your organization. The name first. What does it mean?
So SAWUBONA is a Zulu word, and it means we see you. So when either one Zulu meets another, or whether it's a group, the greeting is SAWUBONA. And it means we see you. But not only does it mean we see you or I see you, it's our lineage, our ancestry. It's a little bit like namaste. It's in a similar way. And the response is, Yebo SAWUBONA, we see you too. And so there's a mutual respect, there's a mutuality that greeting brings that's better than just saying good evening to someone. And it's seeing all of you, who you are, what you bring, the problems, the solutions, the creativity. It's what we're looking at. We know that trauma actually resides in the body. Many of us aren't able to express verbally what we've gone through. But the work of trauma is using the body. So whether it's movement, dance, exercise, and there are various modalities that you can use. So what we decided to do as a group was to figure out how we could reach young people by giving them opportunities for creative expression. We've been in operation now for a little bit over a year. And our first year, it was just all volunteers, art therapists, music therapy, writing, rap, poetry, and getting kids to really express themselves. We meet once a week at this point, Great Oaks Charter School. This is the first school that we've started with, and they've been just really welcoming. They've recognized the need for social emotional learning and realize it's not just about academics, it's about presence. And so we have a group of us who are always there, and then we bring in volunteers to run workshops one evening a week through the school year. We also do a summer program. We had our first summer program last year, of a 5-day program that lasted of about 4 hours each day, with different activities. Over the summer, they went to the Beardsley Zoo, looked at how animals cooperate and work together. They had little exercises that the kids participated. So it's not just looking around and seeing the animals. The staff there was just really wonderful. I don't know how many people know about the Gee's Bend quilters from Gee's Bend, Alabama. Actually, I'm wearing one of their ties today. There are descendants of the Gee's Bend group who live in the Bridgeport area. And so one of their members, actually Tangela Irby, wrote a book called Pearl and Her Gee's Bend Quilt. So over the summer, we had her come in, read her books to the kids, and they made their own quilts. They couldn't quilt with needle and thread, but they were able to use paste, glue, to put fabric that was donated together. And then talk about the importance of carrying on traditions, because what we've learned about the Gee's Bend folks is that they're in an isolated hamlet, and so they didn't have influence from other areas. It wasn't until the 80s that they were discovered. Now their quilts are like unaffordable. They're in the tens of thousands. But we have literally that kind of a resource available to us here in Bridgeport. And I think sometimes we overlook our locals. What we want the kids to learn is not just doing an activity, but connecting it to their culture, and so build resilience, because it's a tough world. And so I feel like, we talk about COVID vaccines and the flu vaccine. It's like we have to end up inoculating, vaccinating our kids so that they can be resilient to deal with all the difficulties that they will face and that they are facing.